people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The current state at minimum weight as a result of Senicia Estrada's unexpected retirement. The reset button has been hit. Most of the alphabet titles are vacant, 3 of the 4. In truth, this was always going to be the case because I figured that after Senicia Estrada became this division's undisputed champion, she wasn't going to stay there, she would move up.
All the titles would go vacant and the reset button would get hit. So one way or another, we were going to end up here.
Yokasta Valle, the 3-division champion, very Johnny on the spot, has already picked up the WBC title, and currently, she's this division's only reigning champion. The other 3 titles are vacant. In the previous video, we talked about how Germany's Sarah Bormann is set to fight for the WBO title very soon, and I think she's going to win it. I think she will become WBO champion at this weight. But what about the other 2?
What about the IBF?
In the IBF's current rank standings, Argentina's own Sol Kudos is ranked at number 1, and Australia's own Louisa Houghton, Bang Bang Lulu, is ranked at number 2.
So maybe those 2 end up fighting for the newly vacated IBF? I say maybe because Louisa Houghton, she just so happens to be ranked at number 1 via the WBA.
It's a little different via the WBA's rankings. Via the WBA, Louisa is ranked at number 1, Yokasta Valle is ranked at number 2, and Sol Kudos is ranked at number 3.
But isn't Yokasta a champion? Why are they ranking a champion?
Not really sure. They do this with the women, but not with the men. They don't rank standing champions, reigning champions amongst contenders with the men, but they do it with the women.
Which is an important detail.
Now, Yokasta Valle is the only fighter in this division with a major promotional outfit behind her, boxing on a major platform. And it also helps that she's a bit of a draw in her native Costa Rica when she fights there. She does draw good-sized crowds, that she's got more name value than all the other girls at this weight.
Whether she's fighting in her native Costa Rica or fighting in the United States under the Golden Boy Promotions banner.
The crux of it is that because Yokasta is the only fighter in this division with a major promotional outfit behind her, she has more ability to make things happen. So maybe we see Valle versus Houghton, Yokasta Valle versus Louisa Houghton for the newly vacated WBA title, which would leave number 1 ranked Sol Kudos to contend with her countrywoman and the next highest ranked contender, Maria Baumstar.
Sol is ranked at number 1, Maria is ranked at number 3.
Louisa is ranked in between them, and if Louisa decides to go the WBA route towards a fight with Yokasta Valle, that would leave these 2 to contend against each other for the newly vacated blue belt. Now, you could give Yokasta Valle very good odds against all of these fighters, whether it's Louisa Houghton, Sol Kudos, Maria Baumstar, even Sarah Bormann, who I have a high opinion of. Yokasta is in many ways head and shoulders above these fighters.
In terms of experience, the number of fights, the number of rounds in the bank, the quality of competition, Yokasta really is head and shoulders above them.
She can beat them all in no particular order. What she might find is that going undisputed in this current landscape is a lot easier than it was when Senicia Estrada was around. I give her very good odds to do it. I think she can beat Sarah Bormann if and when Sarah becomes WBO champion. I think she can beat Sol Kudos. I think she can beat Louisa Houghton. I think she can beat all of them. And this is who she'd have to go through.
This is the current state at the weight. The lay of the land at minimum weight.
Now that the reset button has been hit. Men's light heavyweight news ahead of his upcoming showdown with David Morrell. David Benavidez says he wanted a hard fight like Morrell for a long time.
Bullshit.
David Benavidez understandably sought fights with Canelo Alvarez and Artur Beterbiev, not only for financial security, but to enhance his legacy by attempting to beat boxing's undisputed champions in the super middleweight and light heavyweight divisions. Once it became clear to the unbeaten Benavidez that neither of those challenges would be readily available for the foreseeable future, the WBC interim 175-pound champion embraced a lower-profile, high-risk showdown with the contemporary who has called him out over the last 2 years. Facing David Morrell won't make him the most money or afford Benavidez a shot at a legitimate light heavyweight title, but it is just the type of battle Benavidez believes he needs to prove himself. Phoenix's Benavidez, 29-0 with 24 KOs, and the Cuban-born Morrell, 11-0 with 9 KOs, will fight for their secondary light heavyweight crowns February 1st at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Their 12-round main event will headline a 4-fight PBC Champions pay-per-view that will be distributed by Amazon's Prime Video.
Don't believe the hype.
If what David Benavidez was looking for was a fight like this, then why is he the one that kept putting it off?
Remember when his promoter Samson Lukowicz started off last year saying that they had a signed contract to fight David Morrell? And do you remember when David, some weeks later, came out and called that fake news and said that he wasn't interested in David Morrell?
Because I remember.
He said he wasn't interested in David Morrell, and he was more interested in Jaime Munguia. That's what he said. So if what he's now saying is he was looking for this fight or a fight like this for a long time, you could have had it a long time ago.
Why is he having it now?
Because he doesn't have much of a choice.
This is why I'm here, to show this. I've been wanting a hard fight like Morrell for a long time. Just because I've been calling out Canelo didn't mean I just wanted the payday and wanted to fight Canelo. I wanted a hard fight, and that's exactly how I am. That's my mentality. That's why I took this fight.
Bullshit.
Neither Benavidez nor Morrell performed at their best in their most recent outings. A pair of 12-round unanimous decision wins. Benavidez beat former WBC light heavyweight champion Alexander Vazdik on June 15th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Vegas, 7 weeks before Morrell defeated Radovanje Kalajdzic on August 3rd at the BMO Stadium in LA. Morrell and Benavidez both won by large margins on all three scorecards. Benavidez beat Demetrius Andrade, 32-1 with 19 KOs, a former WBO middleweight champion from Providence, Rhode Island, more impressively, in his previous appearance, which resulted in a technical knockout after the 6th round a year ago at Mandalay Bay's Michelob Ultra Arena in Vegas. Morrell tore through Ghana's Sana Agbeko 29-4, even easier in his prior bout, a second-round stoppage last December 16th at the Armory in Minneapolis, Morrell's adopted hometown.
This is getting long-winded. What's your point?
I think the point was that both David Benavidez and David Morrell looked a lot more dominant, a lot more sharp as super middleweights than they have as light heavyweights. Now, David Benavidez isn't bothered by criticism of his performance versus Ukraine's Vazdik, in part because the former WBC super middleweight champion knows hand and wrist injuries, as well as a cut sustained in sparring, hindered his preparation for that bout on the Gervonta Davis versus Frank Martin undercard. The 27-year-old Benavidez did take exception, however, to suggestions that the opponent Alvarez obviously avoided was apprehensive about boxing Morrell, a slightly younger, skillful southpaw who has power. That was a big factor, Benavidez said. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I know that I'm not scared of anybody. I know I'm better than all these guys. It kind of makes me laugh when I started hearing that from everybody, but I felt like everything happens at its perfect time and place. And what bigger place than to make it happen now?
Oh, there's a reason you want to make it happen now.
T-Mobile Arena, me and David Morrell, February 1st with a great undercard. Man, this fight was destined to happen.
Now let's just cut through the bullshit. The only reason that David Benavidez moved up to light heavyweight is because he got too big to keep making super middle. He couldn't make that weight healthy anymore.
I'm fairly confident that if he could still make it, he would make it and sit there squatting, waiting for Canelo to give him the time of day. If he could, but he can't.
That's one.
What's two? There were rumors of a potential Jesse Hart fight before we got here, but you know, you can't headline a show. You can't bill Benavidez versus Hart as a main event for an $80 price point. That's insane.
So he did one better, and he finally decided to fight David Morrell, but not for no reason. David Morrell didn't look good in his last fight.
Up until that Radovanje Kalajdzic fight in August, David Morrell looked like a world beater, looked like a wrecking machine.
So do you think it's a coincidence that as soon as that guy starts to look human, That's when David Benavidez wanted to fight him?
Where is your common sense? There is obvious angling there that David Morrell, like David Benavidez, is a super middleweight that moved up in weight, and that makes him safer than some other fights at light heavyweight, than some other fights that are out there. Now,
No.
that doesn't make this a bad fight.
Because it's not a bad fight.
It's just overpriced. Consider what this is going to cost you, about $80, and consider the show, the Riyadh season show that Turkey is putting together for that same month.
At half the price.
Better fights all up and down that card, better fights all around than just Benavidez versus Morrell.
At a lower price.
David says that he's been looking for a fight just like this one for a long, long time. Well, David Morrell's been calling you out for a long, long time. So if it were really about that, you would have fought him already.
Maybe it's better this way?
But that's not the subject. That's not what's in question. What's in question is the legitimacy of David Benavidez's statements when he says that he was looking for a fight like this for a long, long time. Buddy, this fight was sitting on your lap the whole time.
You could have had this one whenever you wanted.
The only real reason you're having it now is because you're backed into a corner. You don't really have much of a choice. Who else were you going to headline a pay-per-view with?
You put this thing off long enough that now it's really your only option.
Unless you want to go back to fighting on somebody's undercard.
Now, you know it's not a David Benavidez interview without him name-dropping Canelo Alvarez.
He says he's moved on. He doesn't need Canelo. He keeps ducking. The Mexican Monster was the WBC interim super middleweight champion for a considerable period of time, namely over 2 years. That put the pressure on Canelo to face him, or he risked getting stripped, but that never happened. Nor did the WBC even call for the mandatory.
Well, I told you that they wouldn't. And many a David Benavidez fan who seems to have thought that going the mandatory route would secure him the Canelo fight.
How naive. How many times and how many videos did I tell you? The WBC will not strip Canelo of a title to give it to David because they make more money from Canelo holding that title than if David had it.
Common sense.
Now, I've long maintained that given the amount of time that David Benavidez campaigned at super middleweight, the legwork to secure the Canelo Alvarez fight was supposed to have taken place before he got there. That by the time he does, you don't have anything to offer him.
You should have unified this division. A long time ago, you should have fought Caleb Plant when you were both reigning champions.
You should have worked harder to make yourself the most dominant force at super middleweight so that Canelo can't ignore you. But by the time that Canelo got there, there were literally 4 reigning champions holding 4 alphabet titles separately. So clearly, you didn't do that.
You want to question my rationale?
The ends have to justify the means. Whatever David Benavidez was doing, it didn't get him the Canelo fight. However satisfied you might be with his career so far, whatever he did, it didn't work. And I don't pity him because he was there through 2.5 cycles of champions. 2.5. That is more than ample opportunity to go after these guys, take out the competition, so when Canelo gets there, you're the only one he has to answer to. And you didn't do that. The virtue of that approach would have been that fight by fight, as he goes around collecting belts, well, that will do more for his profile than what he ended up doing, which wasn't very much.
Don't tell him that.
I think I've shown my worth. Everybody knows that the fight versus me and Canelo would definitely be a sellout. If Canelo doesn't ever want to fight me, then I don't need to fight him. I really don't care. If he wants to keep ducking me and not fighting me and showing the world that he only cares about money and not about fighting the best fighters in the world, then he can do whatever he wants, Benavidez said.
Is that why he fought all the champions at this weight and you didn't?
Think about that. While he's saying that Canelo doesn't care about fighting the best, Canelo's the one who went on an undisputed run, and you were there before him. You had a head start.
If you were all about fighting the best, why didn't you do that?
So now he's at light heavyweight because he's outgrown super middle. He's still pouting, he's still complaining about Canelo, and there is also a chance that Benavidez might go up to cruiser.
What?
David Benavidez's father, Jose Benavidez Sr., suggested that idea. This would be with a view to making a fight with Zurdo Ramirez. The latter is a Mexican who is the current WBO and WBA cruiserweight champion. Ramirez is 47-1, with 30 knockouts to his name. His only defeat came against Bivol as he missed out on the WBA light heavyweight title. He then moved up to cruiserweight, beating Arsene Goulamari and then Chris Smith in his last fight to unify this division. And there is a chance that David Benavidez could face him in the future. Yeah, that's what we could do right away. So that's what we're looking for. If for some reason this fight with the winner of Better Beef and Bivol is not happening or whatever, we'll definitely go to Cruiserweight to fight Zurdo Ramirez, and hopefully that happens, Benavidez Sr. stated.
The better late than never approach?
So maybe you guys don't remember, or maybe you guys don't realize, that Zurdo Ramirez and David Benavidez reigned as champions at super middleweight parallel to each other, and long before Canelo Alvarez got there. Zurdo had the WBO, David had the WBC.
It should have happened.
It didn't. So that after all this time, all of a sudden, they're interested in fighting Zurdo. Why?
They don't want the winner of Better Beef versus Bivol.
Whether it's Artur Better Beef or Dimitri Bivol, they don't want the winner of that fight. They view Zurdo as a safer choice.
Why? He's at a higher weight.
Because he's still the guy who lost a lopsided decision to Dimitri Bivol. They view him as a safer choice, a safer alternative. That doesn't even mean that they're right, but that's how they view him.
I don't think they want to box the winner of Better Beef versus Bivol or box on a Riyadh season show.
Not even for Riyadh season money?
Not if they don't want to end up like Jared Anderson. Not if they don't want to end up like Ammo Williams. Haven't you noticed that a lot of the American-based fighters that have been fighting on Riyadh season, they've been getting their asses handed to them. And I don't think David Benavidez and his team want to participate.
I think they would rather stay here, in America, see about setting up a fight with Zurdo Ramirez that would appeal to that large Chicano audience.
I don't think they want to work with Turkey.
Because they don't want to end up like Wilder in the Joseph Parker fight, Wilder in the Zhilei Zhang fight. They don't want to end up like that.
Nope.
I view Zurdo Ramirez as a better inside fighter than David Benavidez, and a better boxer overall, a more dynamic fighter. The proof is in the pudding.
He already took more belts from more champions than David Benavidez. 3. Arthur Abraham at super middleweight, Arsene Goulamarian at cruiser, and Chris Billum-Smith at cruiser.
Where David has only ever taken a belt from one champion, just one, the WBC from Anthony Durrell.
He's got David beat, 3 champion scalps to 1.
He's been a champion at more weights than David. He's been a champion at super middle, and now he's a unified champion at cruiser. He's already done what David is trying to do, stay in character at a higher weight.
Zurdo has more than stayed in character. He's shown there's more to him.
Insights into what might happen after that David Morrell fight. Team Benavidez might forego the light heavyweight campaign altogether to chase Zurdo at cruiserweight. And I like that fight. Did you see the physical condition of David Benavidez this past week as they were promoting the David Morrell fight? Look at him.
He's huge.
You know that only one fight into his light heavyweight campaign, it's conceivable that it's hard for him to make light heavyweight, because look at him.
He's huge.
They see that Zurdo's up there at cruiserweight doing as well as he's doing, and they tell themselves, we can do that.
But can they?
Zurdo's added a lot of tools to his tool chest, a lot of layers to his game to be able to compete and contend in the cruiserweight division. He's not the same fighter that he was at super middle.
Do you think you can make a change like that? I'd have to see it to believe it, because I've always said David is pretty basic.